Hey sports fans and SJR community, welcome to our premiere of Knights Connect. This show means a lot to us as we spent over 3 months getting it ready to provide a wonderful show for you guys. I'm your host, Liam Fahey, and I'm joined by...
Peter.
RJ.
We've got a jam-packed show today diving into the latest in NFL football, along with some pretty impressive and important baseball updates. So let's jump right into it. First, with our discussion about this weekend's slate of football games. The way that we're going to do this is based off of last week's tier rankings organized by yours truly. I want to take it from top to bottom and discuss some of the important storylines going on throughout this year. So, Pete, first off, this number one pick contention tier, is there anything that sticks out to you as something that's worth talking about for this week's games and performances?
Not all that much. Finally, Panthers got a win. The run game actually looked decent. Chuba Hubbard played pretty well, over 100 yards. So, although it doesn't really affect them as much because it's not like they're in the race for the number one overall pick because that belongs to the Bears after the DJ Moore trade. Mm-hmm. So there's really no negative to winning games right here. Overall, big win to kind of knock down the Falcons, who are trying to get back in the race for that division. But
I gotta say, I'd be stunned if the Falcons were to get back in. I think Arthur Smith is wildly misusing his team. But we'll talk about the Falcons a little bit later. I just have a lot of pent-up feelings as a Bijan Robinson owner in fantasy football. Now, RJ, you know that I've been a big Bryce Young guy since the day he's gotten drafted, and that's been a rough hill to die on for this season. But we did see what I believe is a little bit of a glimpse where he went 6 for 6 for 58 yards in the game-winning 95-yard drive in the pouring rain. Is that substantial, RJ? Are you impressed with Bryce's performance this weekend at all?
I have everything against Bryce Young. And Liam and I have had this argument time and time again. I'm looking at stats here. Bryce Young has 2,359. He's averaging 7.5 yards. He's all right. Adam Thielen is a great receiver. I mean, people say that it's not only on Bryce Young. Adam Thielen is great. He has been, and still is. I mean, he's at least a top 20, fringe top 25 guy. He's up there. He can catch the ball. I guarantee he's better than you. Stop looking at me like that. So, CJ Stroud has looked so much better. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, I mean, he had all these weapons at Bama, and
I struggle with he had all these weapons at Bama. I think that CJ Stroud in his time, though clearly Stroud has proven to be the more talented quarterback, and that's not what I'm arguing. I mean, he's been unbelievable since the minute he's touched the field. What I would say about Bryce Young at Bama is that he had great protection, but I don't know that he had necessarily as elite. He had great weapons. I don't know if I'd argue that he had as elite weapons as Stroud has. My mind goes to probably the greatest wide receiver prospect that any of us have ever seen in Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams. I mean, it's not like Stroud was throwing to nobodies. So I struggle with the Bryce Young argument. I mean, are you impressed with Bryce at all?
I mean, I would say Bryce Young is nowhere near the competition of what CJ Stroud has been performing recently. I would say, though, he has given some, after this recent game, has shown some improvement. But the question is, will it continue? Looking into the next season as well, we have playoffs, which they're not going to make it to, sadly. But we have to see how far they can continue pushing to get this good standing.
Now I can feel our resident Texans fan over here about to erupt. Tell us about the comparison with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud.
Bryce Young. Overall, I am a Texans fan. I'd say CJ Stroud is 1,000% better. Definitely the better quarterback. Definitely, pretty much like down the list, top to bottom, he's overall a better player. But you also have to look, I mean, it's not really all Bryce Young's fault. He's been put in one of the worst situations, I think, ever. I mean, the coaching, Frank Reich came in and he didn't even want to draft Bryce Young. He clearly wanted CJ Stroud. So overall, bad start. And then when you look at the statistics, his receivers are averaging the second worst separation out of any NFL team. Only one below that is the Patriots, who also have not been very good. So, I mean, you can't really blame it on him because as you're watching, you see some of these plays, and it's like you look across the field, and Can't throw it to that guy. Can't throw it to that guy. Pressure's coming. They can't block anyone. He's got nowhere to roll. Nothing to do. So it's not really all his fault that he isn't playing as good as C.J. Stroud because he's got no separation, no help from anyone anywhere, and the coaching has not been great.
I think it's interesting also that Bryce Young's size was such a worry, and how brittle he would be. But we've seen countless quarterbacks going down week by week by week by week throughout the year. And he had a stretch where I think he didn't play a game in week 4. But since then, he hits stay on the field and he gets clattered every single game. I think that's a skill. But you talked about how rough the position that he was put in was. But then you also look at C.J. Stroud, who's elevating that position. There's been some comments, just moving on to the next year, there's been some comments in the last couple of weeks. I preface this with me being a Chargers fan. We're moving on onto the Chargers. But C.J. Stroud has elevated his situation. And there's been talk, I've heard, in the last couple of weeks, where people have put question marks on the head of Justin Herbert as to whether or not he's able to elevate his positions. But I think we saw on Thursday night that he might elevate his team more than almost every other quarterback in the NFL, by my own estimations, because, my God, that was something pretty horrible and embarrassing. RJ, reactions to the Chargers getting smashed 63-21 on Thursday night.
I'm going to preface this with, the Raiders suck.
Yeah, they're not good.
0 points.
What was their score from the week before?
0 points. They lost 3-0 previous week.
63.
Yeah.
You guys couldn't score until they put their third stringers in.
That's on Houston's stick. It's on Houston's stick. It's regular.
That was horrendous. I mean, there's so few words I have. Justin Herbert has 3,000 yards on the year already.
And that will be it for him. But what I will say is it's actually, it's kind of the easiest game, or at least easiest loss, if I can bare my soul a little bit for a second. That was kind of the easiest loss for me to watch of the season. It's Chargers fashion to lose by 3 points by the last play of the game. And at least us getting destroyed meant the loss of Brandon Staley's job. Generally, head coaches last 3 to 4 years. Staley almost got to 3 and was signed from, obviously, the McVay tree as this defensive guru. But instead, the Chargers have had a bottom 5 defense.
And 63 points.
Right. For every single year and lets up the highest rate of explosive plays in the league when you also have one of the highest paid defenses in the league. You had Mack and Bosa. You have Derwin James, who I firmly believe is one of the best defensive players in the NFL, but he's certainly getting paid like it. And then next year, whatever head coach embraces Justin Herbert as in his situation, but also embraces $40 million over the cap. It's the second highest team over the cap in the NFL, only behind the Saints. So my question to you, Vinny, is the Chargers job an attractive job? And if so, who should the next coach be?
I'm gonna say, you look at the Chargers, they haven't been performing, I would say, as they could have been. I would say if they were to get a new coach, it would probably be somebody that benefits their wide receivers a lot too, because we have Keenan Allen. But I feel like if Herbert, as we know he's hurt now, if somebody that's there to replace that position that can help in the time frame, that'll really boost the Chargers, I think.
Yeah, I think that, they definitely should get someone offensive minded, because when you look at the talent alone, this team on paper is Super Bowl caliber, no question. You have, obviously, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler's been great. Everett and Ferrum are both great tight ends. Herbert, you see what happens without him. And the defense has definitely some talent for sure. Khalil Mack is leading the league in sacks, I think, still, even though he's in his 30s.
And he had that one game with 6 sacks, but still, he had 6 sacks in the game. That's ridiculous.
I think that potentially maybe Jim Harbaugh, because he did look like he was pursuing some sort of job in the NFL. Although I don't love him, I think he's offensive minded, and I've heard him come up a lot in talks for.
I'm going to stop all 3 of you right there. I'm sure we all saw the interview with Brandon Staley before the game. You know who had a very similar interview?
Who's that?
Within the same week? Bill Belichick. I think he's a Charger by next year.
Hey,
I think
all I'm
it's
saying,
very possible.
I'm sick as a Chargers fan of having first-year coordinators as offensive coaches. Staley was what was 3 or 4 years out of Division III when he took over. I love the idea of Ben Johnson. I love the idea of those guys taking over. But my really only two candidates that I want taking the job are Belichick and Harbaugh. And Belichick, I don't know if Harbaugh's going to leave Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
If he wins the national championship, why would he leave Michigan? But it looks like Belichick, the winningest coach of all time, is being pushed out of New England, even though they still have a solid defense with, I would argue, basically no weapons.
Mm-hmm.
He's being pushed out of New England. I would hope straight into the Chargers.
Would you consider Keenan Allen a top 8 to 7 wide receiver?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
100%?
100%.
So you don't think that maybe CeeDee Lamb is... Would you say CeeDee Lamb is better than Keenan Allen?
Yes.
Marginally. But in terms of at their peak, I'm taking Keenan Allen. Of course. Keenan Allen is the most consistent receiver I've ever seen in my life. Keenan Allen has been, I mean, besides Mike Evans, Mr. 1000. But Keenan Allen, over his years in the NFL, I've never seen him put up a bad season, ever. And we just saw what it looks like when Keenan Allen doesn't play. And it's like left up to Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson. How'd that go? Like, I didn't think it went super
You guys
well.
fumbled on Quentin Johnson. So let's not bring him into this conversation.
But we're thinking, you're saying Keenan Allen at the best moment of his time over CeeDee Lamb's best moment.
100%.
I would say...
Okay, I think we're having the wrong
He was
argument.
terrible, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Right now,
100%.
Keenan Allen is 31. I'd much rather CeeDee Lamb.
He's 8. He's a route running.
CeeDee Lamb is putting up better numbers.
I just said I'd prefer CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah,
Think about
I'm talking about...
But think about think about the system, think about the opportunity, think about the age. I'm taking the skill and sureness of Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert's partner. I think that partnership is as important to the Chargers as a partnership like Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes is to the Chiefs. Clearly, they're gone and the team crumbles. So my next transition here, talk about this mediocre at best tier. I like to call this the Justin Fields tier because I think that this is Fields and the 3 teams that he could be the quarterback for next year. Because I don't think that Fields is a bear this season. I'm a big Caleb Williams fan. I think May is elite, but I think that Williams is clearly the best quarterback in the class. He reminds me obviously a lot of Mahomes. I'm not super innovative to say that, but he is Mahomes. I'm just gonna ignore that. But I love the idea of Caleb Williams. I don't see how you don't want to restart the quarterback clock on the contract. I know that Fields is playing well in the recent years, but for me, Fields playing well, all that does is play him into higher trade value. Do you guys think that Fields is a Chicago Bear next
These
season?
2 teams are keeping their quarterback. They're giving him another chance.
Kenny Pickett.
They like Kenny Pickett. They're going to give Pickett another chance. Pickett has been god awful, and I drafted him in fantasy in 2 different leagues. He has been terrible. He is awful. These teams aren't getting rid of their quarterbacks. The Bears love Justin Fields. The Bears with the first overall pick, I am confident in saying they'll take Marvin Harrison.
Well,
I feel like trade out of one.
What about
I
that?
think
But I don't think they want to lose Marvin Harrison. I think they take him at 1.
I think I know exactly what they're going to do. You saw it last year with the DJ Moore trade. They're clearly looking to build around Justin Fields, and I think they're loading up. Like they've made a lot of trades recently. Traded for DJ Moore, traded for Sweat. A lot of big moves. I think they will trade the number 1.
Do you think that?
I don't think they will take Marvin
Who
Harrison.
would be interested in taking the number 1 overall pick, you think?
I
Are the Raiders going to move up? Are the Steelers going to move up? The
I
Falcons?
think they're into trading for a proven guy. I think they've kind of almost moved away from the draft thing. They're like loading up on. They're almost doing what the Chargers are doing. They have they're just putting a lot of money into it. Like they're paying a lot.
How's that work out for the Chargers?
I think that's what they're going to do.
We say that the Bears, if won the game that we saw yesterday, they got that Hail Mary and eventually did come out winning the game. Would you say that they would be moving up in this list?
I think that there's reason for them to think No, actually,
No.
I'm going to rescind what I was just going to say because I think the
Bears
Bears
stay right
the
here.
Bears have
If you get lucky
their
on that,
defense.
they stay.
Their defense, I think, has been playing well recently. But I don't know. I think that Fields has made impressive plays, but I think it's because he knows that his job's on the line. And the value of a rookie quarterback contract is so immense. It's so cheap. It's so necessary to take that opportunity, especially when you have a generational player like Caleb Williams playing with that. I don't understand. It's not like they're blowing teams out. It's not like their offensive prowess is mind-boggling. They're the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields plays well, but before he came back from injury, a lot of us weren't sure if he could complete a pass. Let's remember how we started the season. I don't feel like Fields is. I feel like he's a good quarterback, but not a great quarterback. And you have your eyes on a great quarterback for no cost. The Panthers are doing it for you. Now, I want to skip to the top end of the tiers here. Final remarks here. Let's talk a little bit about these Super Bowl favorites. Obviously, the Cowboys got walloped yesterday, and I had long conversations, and I'll forward this right to you, but I had long conversations with a lot of our friends in the senior class. I mean, shout out to Mr. Mays, period, where we talk a lot about the Bills and how good the Bills are. And I want to remind us, the Bills are not a playoff team. They're the 11 seed Buffalo Bills. What happened then?
As a Cowboys fan,
That's your first mistake.
all right. I don't even want to talk about it.
Neither would
We
I.
played the Bills, and can someone else say the score? I don't feel like saying it.
31-10.
Yeah. So the refs. It was the refs.
Yeah. So
It wasn't the right.
I think I want to touch
Wasn't
on
you guys are
the.
bad.
We are so bad.
I want to touch on the Bills real quick. We all know, early in the season they were not looking good. Like there was that stretch where they just really they looked so bad. But ever since they fired the offensive coordinator, they have looked so much better. Obviously they've put a very big focus on running the ball. James Cook had his way with that Cowboys defense,
Yeah, which is why
221 total yards. They have looked phenomenal recently. I think that they can, if they get in the playoffs, they can really make some noise.
My last question for you guys. My last half a question. Josh Allen, one word answer. After yesterday, MVP candidate?
No.
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 RJ.
RJ, if you know what the answer is,
He's always in the conversation.
There it is. Thank you very much. Nice Connect. I'll see you next week.
Running the bases, we're talking about baseball. I'm your host, Chris Spiegel, and I'm joined by,
Michael Kaminsky, Ryan McCabe,
James Griglio.
even in the offseason, the hot stove is burning bright with trade rumors and speculations. What's cooking in the baseball world? Let's find out. So let's start with one of the hottest topics right now in the MLB, despite it not even being the season yet, is the trade of Shohei Ohtani.
Listen, Shohei Ohtani's free agent signing is the highlight of this offseason, obviously. He's the big name, and the Dodgers got it done. $700 million, and they're sitting pretty right now. Yeah, I think that I honestly think that Ohtani got a steal. With him not being able to pitch in 2024, maybe, we don't know if he's ever going to pitch again. But I feel that the Dodgers, it's going to be big for them in the future to see whether they make the money back with ticket prices, and they can raise the amount of tickets that people buy with an exciting player.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the price fluctuation is a very real thing. Just look at what happened with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
He came to the Jets, and those ticket prices soared. They're going up at least $100, I believe I saw, just for nosebleed land.
Yeah.
So I think that the Dodgers are definitely going to profit substantially, but the question is that going to balance out the ridiculous amount of money they paid Ohtani?
And when it comes to marketing and fandoms, Ohtani brings an international level to the Dodgers. Not only is he becoming, if not is the face of the MLB at this point, he's also the face definitively of the NPB in Japan. So he's growing the Dodgers fandom beyond just America and baseball.
Well, I have experience at Angels Stadium. I went this past year. That stadium was packed full of Angels fans who come to watch Ohtani. You know how Yankees fans travel. It was a Yankees-Angels game. Unless you go to Fenway Park or something, or another really good team, that away stadium's gonna be packed with Yankees fans. But that stadium was full. It was like a football stadium full of Angels fans. It's gonna be interesting to see how that stadium is without Ohtani. I think it's gonna be just like Oakland, to be honest with you.
And regardless of price, do you think that it was in Ohtani's best interest to move to the Dodgers?
100%. The Angels, they've had their chances. They just couldn't make the playoffs. And I don't blame Ohtani for being upset about that. He's going to go to the Dodgers. They're a playoff team. Was the third year in a row they've won 100 games? 2 out of the 3 years they won the division. obviously the Dodgers are going to be in it to win it, and I think this is really exciting for them. I'm really excited to watch playoff baseball with Ohtani involved.
Even in last year's offseason, I had a feeling that Shohei Ohtani would be a Dodger. I think it was a good fit for the team. They had freed up their infield with contracts, so they had the money to do so. Also, going from Los Angeles to Los Angeles is something that I could definitely see Ohtani doing, and, it proved correct. I think it, great for him, great for the sport. Seeing a big-time player move to a big-time team is always something interesting, and see how that factors into the World Series odds.
And then I also think that the Dodgers getting Ohtani, we're going to see Yamamoto sign in the near future. The Dodgers getting Ohtani could make Yamamoto say, "Hey, I know Shohei. He's from my country. We have things in common. Let me go play with Shohei."
Right.
So I think that could
Yamamoto
help
being
the
a big
Dodgers.
free agent right now is huge, and Shohei Ohtani signing with the Dodgers is crucial for this It throws a wrench in everything because.
Do you think he is going to end up at the Dodgers? Now, of course, the biggest thing for these players is price at this point. Like, he's coming to play baseball in America. The biggest thing is price. So do you think the Dodgers, they just spent a lot of money on Ohtani. Are they going to put even more money out for Yamamoto?
So that's the interesting thing about this Ohtani contract is that they've structured it so that they're only paying him $2 million a year for the 10 years that he's actively playing. So the Dodgers, although they have spent $700 million, in air quotes, they have money left over. And with Yamamoto looking for maybe a $300 million contract, I think the Dodgers could still get it done. As a Yankee fan myself, I'd love to see Brian Cashman go out and spend that $300 million to bring in Yamamoto, get another starting pitcher in our rotation. But unfortunately, the Dodgers are looking really good for landing Yamamoto right now, guys.
Well, I'd just like to add to that. I think Ohtani is being a little selfish with this because I know he's letting the Dodgers hold their money, but in 10 years, this is going to be really hard for this team because they're paying $68 million for a player that's retired. So Ohtani just wants the Dodgers to be good while he's on their team.
So would that something? Do you guys think that would maybe make the Dodgers more wary about spending money, even if they have it? They know that they're going to have to spend the $68 million come time.
I completely disagree with that because I feel like Ohtani knows that the Dodgers are good right now. They're in a win right now mindset. They just got another starting pitcher, Tyler Glasnow. He's going to be another big piece for them. Ohtani knows that they're in a win now situation, and he knows that he can be a big part of that, so he wants to help while he's there. And he wants to get other guys to help while he's there, so he wants to keep their payroll low right now.
Right. With the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets being the ideal landing spots for Yamamoto in the talks that we've seen online, do you think that somebody like Kodai Senga or Shohei Ohtani plays a role in this contract because they're both from the NPB and have experience playing with Japan?
I think that for sure it could have a major role on where Yamamoto picks because it's very hard coming from one country to the other, meeting new people, seeing new faces, facing completely different competition, and having another guy that has the experience could really help.
See, I think I would disagree a little bit with that, only because the whole reason that they're coming here is they have a talent, and then they're going to get a lot of money for it. So are the Dodgers going to push for more money? I don't know. They have Ohtani. They have a powerhouse. The question is, do they need another? And at that point, that's where it's questionable. Are they willing to spend more money? You know who is going to spend more money? It's going to be the Yankees, and it's going to be the New York teams who they need these star players because at this point they're suffering, and they're not going to be able to go against the powerhouse Dodgers.
Right. If you look at both the Yankees and the Mets right now, they only have 4 starting pitchers. With the offseason moves that have been made and the tendering of certain players, both teams only have a 4-man rotation as we speak. So where Yamamoto lands, those teams are still going to have to go out and look for other free agents. It's still a posing issue.
Well, you just got to keep in the back of your head, all three of these rotations are made of glass. For the Yankees, Rodon was out for half the year. Nestor was out for basically the whole year. We don't know what we're going to get out of Schmidt quite yet. He's just a young talent, and still he had an above 4 ERA. He seemed to settle down as we got later into the year, but. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I think I'm going to try my best not to be a biased Yankee fan, but I think Yamamoto slides right into the Yankees rotation because he's going to be the Yankees' only Japanese player. He's going to stand out. It's going to really excite the Yankees fan base, and he's going to be unique.
Speaking of the teams for next year, I'm really excited. What do you guys think for, some awards for next year? Maybe MVP, Cy Young, World Series?
So although it's a bit early on, I listen, as cliche as it is to say it, I think Acuna can do it back to back for the National League because of how young he is. I think that it's important to stress how young Acuna is and how just the talent out of that man is almost unmatched. Obviously, as we saw this year with his MVP this year.
And that's unbelievable because it feels like he's been in the league forever.
Exactly.
I agree that he's going to have another awesome year, but honestly, I don't see Ohtani. I don't see why Ohtani wouldn't win it again.
Right.
I know that he's not going to be pitching this year, but I mean, every year he's an amazing hitter, and I just feel like he's going to rebound with that new team and that new energy.
So I think, as you know, we're all fans. I may be wrong about you, McCabe, but I think we're all fans of the Yankees here. And you know, I think a good conversation to have is what's going on. How can we get better? Because the sad part is it hasn't happened, and like just these mistakes. I mean, look at Rizzo had a concussion and was playing and was doing poorer and poorer, and didn't even realize. Simple mistakes like that where you realize like something's going wrong, something needs to change. So how do you think, especially for the Yankees, like they need to move forward? How can they get better?
So I'm telling you right now, Carlos Rodon, comeback player of the year for next year. Wow. He's going to have an awesome year. Garrett Cole's going to have another awesome year. I think that Juan Soto, with his first year in New York, that short porch in right field, is going to have an MVP caliber year. I think that everybody's going to do their job, and I strongly believe that the New York Yankees will win the World Series in 2024.
Wow. That's a take. That's a take.
And I completely, like, I'm a Yankees fan. I completely disagree because I think Aaron Boone, this is a hot take, but Aaron Boone, I don't think he can get the job done. I don't think he can.
I think what Ryan is saying is pretty valid. I think the Yankees can do it.
I think, I want to root for the Yankees.
We say it every year, though.
Want to root for the Yankees.
Chase for
but
28.
To Pinto's point, Aaron Boone really struggles with the bullpen. And I think unless there are some more bullpen acquisitions, maybe see some guys that can really hold their own in the bullpen, it's going to be another struggle this year with calling these pitching.
And I mean, a lot of people are saying that they think that the Dodgers are going to win. I really don't think that they can compete in a 162 game year because we see, in my opinion, I look at what the Dodgers get every single year, and I always see them getting big name free agents, big signings, and I'm like, oh, nobody's beating the Dodgers. This is just dumb. And every single year they don't win. They won it in 2020 in the 60 game shortened season, and I just don't think that they can do it for a full season with a full playoff, and I don't think that they can stay healthy.
We got any final comments, guys?
Well, I just want to say Ryan just hit the nail on the head. The Dodgers, they had perfect momentum in 60 games, including all those playoff games. As it gets later into the year, as it gets colder, the Dodgers lose their momentum. I think that's crucial. The Dodgers always start off, they're 30 games over 500, maybe 40 games. And then they start slipping up come August, come September. They squeeze into the playoffs, manage to win the division because it's always dominant. And, I think they're going to lose momentum in the playoffs again, just like they do every year.
Well, thank you guys. It's been great. We'll see you guys next week.